Hi, and welcome back. You're listening to the Periodontal Patient Podcast, a podcast for my patients and anyone else who cares to listen. My name is Dr. Ben Young, and I am a periodontist in private practice in San Antonio, Texas. This is episode 104, and the title is Growing Together Along Spiritual Lines. But before I go there, I would like to first review with you what supportive periodontal therapy is all about. Again, one of the reasons for having this podcast is to provide you with information you and I might not be able to exchange while we are together in the office. Also, you may not be seeing me again soon, so this is how I am able to at least tangentially keep in touch and hopefully encourage you to take good care of yourself. Often, when I meet new patients who need my services to treat periodontal disease, it is not because this is the first round of periodontal care they have received in their lifetimes. It may be that they had a deep cleaning or even periodontal surgery years before, but then things stopped. In our current situation, it might have been due to COVID. What then happened to many is that this chronic oral condition started back up again. And if it was not intercepted soon enough, they found themselves back to needing active treatment once again. One of the big reasons I produced, now a number of years ago based on how I looked then compared with now, my explanation of what periodontal disease is, that I call a tooth has four parts, was to correct an important misunderstanding. Most people believe that dentists like me have the ability to reverse or fix most problems we encounter, and that, in fact, what we do is probably at least 80% of what is needed, if not more, leaving the patient the remaining 20%. The truth is, it's the opposite. We as individuals control most of what happens to us when it comes to periodontal disease. I assign this the 80% side, leaving the 20% as the effect that comes as a result of obtaining professional dental care. The same 80-20 ratio, by the way, is also true when it comes to most chronic conditions I can think of, like diabetes, high blood pressure, low back pain, as just a few examples. Sure, we can take medications that might help, but even then, we are the ones who decide whether to take them or not. And often, just taking medications, but not at the same time changing lifestyle activities, might override any benefits we would receive from the medications. Once active treatment has been provided, the purpose of supportive periodontal therapy, our 20%, is to monitor the pockets around teeth and respond, usually in the same visit, to those pockets that are beyond the patient's ability to reach with their home care routines. And those home care routines should ideally involve soft bristle, gentle brushing, and wherever two teeth are touching side by side, gentle daily flossing. Again, your home care is part of the 80% you are responsible for because it is a daily routine no one in a dental office can provide for you. Another common misunderstanding about home care is that it can access deep pockets, whether mechanically by brushing, flossing, water picks, and the rest, or by the use of mouthwashes. How deep in pockets can brushing and flossing predictably and consistently reach? Well, the answer is somewhere around 2 millimeters. Any deeper, and usually there is injury to the gums, along with reaching these deeper sites. If you could control these deeper pockets, then you would have 100% responsibility for the management of this problem. But remember, you only have 80%. You need to go somewhere to obtain that 20%, and it needs to be at a frequency that makes sense. Pockets that are 5 millimeters or less can usually be adequately managed in supportive therapy at a 3-month or longer interval without progressing. 6 millimeter pockets are less predictable because bacteria that inhabit the pocket at the depth of 6 millimeters often turn into colonies of anaerobic organisms, meaning they do not metabolize oxygen. They are more destructive. For this reason, when we are dealing with 6 millimeter and deeper pockets in maintenance, We are considering other treatment options to improve long-term stability. In addition, we are monitoring the general bleeding index of the mouth. This is looking at bleeding following gentle gum probing in order to determine if inflammation in the mouth is increasing. This may be a sign that we need to intercept the problem with repeat light root planing in order to remove microscopic granular deposits on the root surface that have been forming during the maintenance period. In my mind, root planing is an intentional and rare event in supportive care. The usual maintenance cleaning is a general flushing and disruption of organisms, usually with a thin ultrasonic tip with water irrigation. The rest of the cleaning someone receives is no different than is provided to all patients. It involves removal of above the gum mineral deposits we call calculus or tartar, as well as polishing teeth to remove stains. When someone is being seen more frequently than every 6 months, this part of the cleaning should be frankly lessened in intensity in order to preserve tooth structure. Finally, if you have not been seen for your recommended periodontal supportive therapy or periodontal maintenance visit within 6 months, please seek an appointment right away. I grew up in El Cajon, California. It is located east of San Diego, about 20 miles. I am the second son in a family of 4 kids. 2 are brothers and 1 is my little sister. My brothers became physicians, and Sis and I took the dental track. The reason any of us did any of this on a purely physical level had to do with 3 things. The first was genetics. We inherited things that enabled us to accomplish the mental work necessary to get through school well enough to be accepted to professional schools. Secondly, we had opportunities based on when, where, and to whom we were born and raised. Born at another time or place, and it is pretty clear that all of us would have turned out differently. And finally, we agreed to cooperate. We did not rebel, at least enough to mess up our careers. We complied with instructions primarily from our parents, but also teachers and other family friends to do the work necessary to develop skills in all sorts of aspects of our lives. Essentially, we were smart enough, worked hard enough, kept out of trouble for the most part, and agreed with the plan. The plan, established by our parents, was that we would go to college and then professional school. It wasn't a new plan. Our father and his only brother, our uncle, followed this plan, established by their father, a successful businessman of the time, who believed it made sense to go this professional route. This resulted in my father taking the dental tract and my uncle becoming an OBGYN. One more point about my dad that influenced me to become a periodontist was that after 25 years practicing general dentistry, he decided to go back to graduate school for 2 years in order to return to his same office and start the first endodontic practice in El Cajon. Now, I said that this is the physical explanation. I believe there was an undeniable spiritual component to all of this as well. Our journey as a family took us from living without any spiritual beliefs to something deeper and more profound. Each of us in the family at around the same time in our lives became Christians. This was so profound to us that I cannot treat it honestly as an isolated, compartmentalizable factoid in my or my family's journey. It affected everything about us, including the professional schools we ended up attending and graduating from. To explain how all this happened might be interesting, but is not the direction I would like to go with you today. If you're interested, let me know and I will tell it all on another podcast or 2. Or go back into the archives and you will find some of this information there. Here is what I would like you to understand about me, but more importantly, about yourself. We are not accidents. We have been placed specifically in the place, time, and circumstances for reasons that are not just for ourselves. And even if I happen to believe this is true, I can't prove it. What is worse, I do not believe we will ever have all our questions answered while living on this side of the grave. Life will always be shrouded in mystery. I suppose the reason this is the case is because if we could know it all, we wouldn't need each other, and we wouldn't need to seek and learn to rely on God. In fact, I have, over a long period of time, come to believe that even though we all start out in different places, God loves each of us just the same and is using not only our strengths, but more profoundly, our weaknesses, our trials, our failures, to mold us into becoming perfect representations of who He is to the world around each of us. Now, of course, none of us is perfect or will become perfect in this life, and perfection is God's to define, not us. Another thing that has become clear to me over time is that the more I learn and grow spiritually, the more my sins and shortcomings are revealed to me. In other words, I believe that God knows how much of our mess we can handle at any one time. So we take a journey of discovery that isn't always sweetness and light. It is a mix of blessings and challenges all the time. We rejoice and weep routinely. And this is why we need communities to help us grow. This likely involves family, friends, a church or synagogue, as well as professional colleagues. Which brings up an interesting point and problem. In today's secular world, there is a strong pressure to keep any spiritual faith quiet when in patient care. It also is a pressure when it comes to politics. Christianity is told not to participate in the public square, and this comes from both directions. It comes from fellow believers telling others that they should avoid the things of this world, and it comes from those outside of religion, those who publicly declare it all to be superstition, and therefore Christians must stay out of politics. Now, my understanding of how Jesus lived while he was on this earth is that he spoke out regardless of what the religious and secular powers of the time told him to do. This fearlessness also passed down to his disciples, who suddenly transformed from the timid men who fled the scene when Jesus was arrested to fearless defenders of the faith a few weeks later. No longer were they afraid about what might happen to them or intimidated by societal norms. Instead, they began to understand that they had a message of hope others needed to hear. I definitely needed to hear it when it was first told me at age 18. Now, looking back a couple thousand years later, we can see that Christianity was one of, if not the strongest influence in the growth of medicine, from which dentistry is a branch. I say this because it was from the example of Jesus healing the sick that we began to understand the value of all human life, even the weakest, sickest, and poorest, that faithful followers of Christ would work over generations to develop the hospitals that are around us today. Note how many hospitals here in San Antonio are linked to Christian saints and denominations. St. Luke's Baptist, United Methodist, Christa Santa Rosa. Western civilization and Judeo-Christian teachings are linked together, and they are under attack. So how did I get here from my own personal journey? Over time, as is likely true for many of you, scales have fallen from my eyes, and I see how I have played into a lie that I must respect others by keeping quiet about what I believe. This is the same as voluntarily suppressing my First Amendment right to speak my mind. Now I am beginning to understand that we, as individuals, as families, as a society, are healthiest when we can express ourselves freely in respectful ways. We need healthy conversations. With this in mind, I offer you the following opportunity. On the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, I am facilitating a series of videos followed by group discussions entitled Faith Prescriptions. This is primarily designed with the healthcare community in mind. In other words, the speakers will be physicians and dentists, and their topics will be wide-ranging, but within the general subject of living our faith in the secular environments of hospitals and private practices. Having said this, if you, for any reason, who happen not to be personally involved with healthcare, perhaps you are a spouse, or are interested in pursuing a career in this field, or you are a patient and want to understand the challenges we face in this field, you are welcome to participate. Please call my office for more information. Those who wish to attend in person can come at 6:15 to have a light meal with us, or you can join on Zoom at 7:15. We should be finished by 8:30. Finally, I will likely draw topics from this program to discuss on upcoming podcasts. So if you can attend, please stay tuned here. Also, don't think you must attend them all. Each topic is self-contained enough to be useful on its own. So, if you are listening to this podcast weeks and months from now, the program is still likely going on. So do call my office and check it out. Well, that's it for today. This has been the Perio Patient Podcast, and I'm still Dr. Ben Young. Thanks for listening. Bye for now. A priest, an imam, and a rabbit walk into a bar. The rabbit turns to the others and says, "Guys, I think I might be a typo." Now go